account was the like $17,000 survey that was conducted throughout Huber Heights via phone and online. The results of that survey were 32% of the residents were very supportive and 30% were very unsupportive. That was the phone survey. The online poll was extremely different and more in favor. 62% of, roughly 1,000 people versus 24% in favor of allowing those businesses in Huber Heights. It was also said that it's not about people needing the medicine. It's about what that type of business will bring, or what will it bring to Huber Heights. And that can be debated. And I think, if I haven't already, I think I've made myself clear on where I stand on that. I think what it will bring to Huber Heights is increased revenue, new jobs, new opportunities, and allow Huber Heights to be on the top end of this new industry.
Discussion? Councilwoman Smith?
This is from the council meeting.
I just have a couple questions I need clarified, if I could, please. I know that the moratorium expires in about 12 days. So could I get some feedback from my colleagues as why we would go for a straight-up ban with the legislation being so fluid right now, instead of going to a moratorium again? That way there would be a suspense in 6 to 8 months. We could revisit it once the legislation or the state and the federal level decides kind of what they're going to do with it. So I just wanted to ask that question, if I could, please.
I, for one, would say that you can have this vote tomorrow, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 24 months from now, and it'll all be always for a ban for me. So I'd like to give the developers clarity on what we're doing here in this conversation and get back to the business of the people, which is not, in my opinion, approving any form of marijuana. So I think we're just holding on a conversation that needs to end by continuing it. That would be my perspective.
Okay, I'm going to stop that clip real quick. Your polls didn't mean anything. Now, listen, I get representatives are represented to lead and they're elected to be a leader, but sometimes you have to put your personal views at the door in order to do the business of the people.
Yes.
And to Ms. Smith's comment, if we were to prohibit it tonight, that doesn't mean in 6 months after federal law settles, which I don't know will happen in 6 months, but your example, when things clear up, the city's free to revisit the issue at that point. There's not going to be any state action on applications until the earliest of September 2018 now, as they've already have all their cultivator, processor, and dispensary licenses have been required to be submitted already. So there wouldn't be anything really happening as far as new applications until that time anyway.
Right, and I could make the same argument. It could be vice versa. If we did a moratorium, we could still go back. I guess my biggest question at hand then is that we do have one company that has been given a license. Is that what I'm understanding, Tony or Jerry? Is that what I'm understanding, the one on executive
They've been authorized a provisional license from the state.
Okay, so
yes.
If we put a ban on medical marijuana tonight, where does that leave that business?
Not in a very good position.
So there's nothing that says that they would be grandfathered in, or does that set us up for future litigation?
Well, anything sets you up for future litigation. They are not subject to the moratorium in that they filed their request prior to the moratorium, so they would be able technically to still proceed regardless of what we're going to do with our current zoning.
And then I guess my question would be is, my understanding when I went to different workshops throughout the year was that the state would not authorize or give out licenses until the municipality has passed legislation. Since we haven't passed legislation one way or the other for medical marijuana, is there a reason why this particular company was authorized a license without us having anything in place?
I cannot speak for the state. I don't know why they did what they did.
Do you happen to know if what I'm saying is correct?
I know that the state had forms that they used that we filled out, that after the cultivators, that form was revised for processors and dispensaries to make it a little bit clearer on what municipalities are doing, because the form simply said, is there zoning in place? And if you didn't fill that out, then there's no zoning in place. But they have now made it a little bit clearer on their forms. But that's all I can really tell you on that.
Okay. Well, so since you kind of explained that to me a little bit better and I have a better understanding, can you kind of touch on the legality terms of it? If I were to vote yes on the ban and it passes along with everybody else, what's the legality of the chances of us getting sued because we said no even though the state said yes? How does that pit us against
each other? If council
other?
desires that discussion, I'd prefer that it be an executive session.
Yes, an executive session, because there's a possibility? Question mark. I hope not. I truly hope that that Huber isn't going to catch a lawsuit for this, because it's a lot bigger than if the other lawsuit that was talked about earlier in the work session. So during this meeting, there were several people scheduled to speak on this topic, a couple of different people in favor of. There were none, to my knowledge, that were there to speak against this topic. But there was a council person who was offended by what one of the residents or one of the people who came to speak.
I think it's worth saying, Mayor, that I find it offensive, Mr. Johnson, that you question the integrity, I think were your words, and ethics of this council. Sir, I'm speaking to the presiding officer. Are you out of order? I believe, but I'll leave that to you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I find that offensive. I find that offensive as someone who has not yet voted on this. And I find it most offensive, Mr. Johnson, and I'd encourage you to get a civics lesson relevant to the question of the popular opinion and the debate over polling versus the duty of this council to look out for the best interest. There's nothing within the charter that would stop us from enforcing a ban, continuing the moratorium, or even allowing for this. So I find those offensive, and I think that needs to be stated for the record.
Okay, just a couple things on this. First of all, a civic lesson is not needed. You're allowed to have opinions. That was kind of snarky. But you're allowed to have opinions on just about anything. I mean, we still live in a free country, so the civic lesson maybe should be reversed. Anyway, when he suggests, and that was Councilman Morgan, when he suggests that I haven't even voted on this. Well, before this person even spoke, or, he was frustrated. Watch the meeting. He was frustrated. I'm not playing it here. But he was frustrated about the ban because it is frustrating for a lot of people. So anyway, before this person even spoke, Mr. Morgan did explain how he was going to vote. He said, it will always be for me a ban. That's what he said. So anyway, but he's offended. So let's move on. And then a little bit further on, Ms. Burge reiterates what she said at the work session. We played that earlier. And then Councilman Otto and Councilman Shaw, they expressed their opinions on medical cannabis and the vote that was about to take place.
For starters, our residents did not voice their opinion that they did not want to hear that. As a matter of fact, it was quite overwhelmingly the opposite. In addition to that, I kind of know where this is all going to go. I'll make my piece now and move on. I think we're passing on a burgeoning industry. This is a new and upcoming business that's not only new to our state, our area, but the entire country, and it's going to continue to grow. It's not going to go backwards. Just like we're not going to see prohibition on alcohol ever again either.
No.
We could either accept this industry with open arms, or we can keep a closed-minded approach to a medicinal industry, and we can lose out on that. I'm not willing to take that chance myself. I will vote in favor of this, and I understand those voting against, but I personally believe it's just for the most part, it's a mindset that's stuck in the past. Thank you.
And I think what he meant there was he would vote in favor of allowing the businesses and against a ban. But well said. That's something I agree. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So Mr. Shaw, he had this to say.
Are we still in discussion phase?
At this point, yes.
Okay. And nobody thought I was going to get out of the subject without hearing from me. I know there's a lot of people on pins and needles. I'll try to keep it short, and I appreciate everybody's time. I have personally been working on medical cannabis. A lot of folks like to call it medical marijuana here in the city of Huber Heights for nearly 23 months now. I have visited close to 5 different states that have a form of recreational or medical marijuana in those states. I visited with mayors, elected officials, business owners, community members from all of these states. I have supplied this city council with, I think at last check, over 1,600 pages of research. Reached out to many of you who are sitting in this audience today to ask you to come and speak before this council to provide your own situations and your own experiences, and I appreciate you all from coming out here tonight. As we all know, taking a little bit trip down memory lane, Wednesday, June 8th, 2016 is when Governor Kasich signed House Bill 523 into law. And yes, I, as an elected official of this body, can say I have read that entire bill. On top of that, I have to thank, the bipartisan majority that passed that, not only within the House, but within the Senate as well. The city of Huber Heights, we've been discussing this again for quite some time, and take us all the way back to August 16th of 2016. At that time, previous law director Alan Schaefer had placed an item on the agenda to place a medical marijuana moratorium. At that time, I had provided starting research that I had at that time, and the minutes in that meeting will show, and I'll paraphrase, that we're not going to pass a medical marijuana moratorium at this time. We want to do further research. I have to say that and again, my personal opinion, this may be my last time to talk on this subject, so I appreciate the time. The interactions I've had with city staff and our law directors and previous council members as well over the past 22 months have been nothing but professional in making sure that we get the best possible zoning for this city. It has been to Planning Commission twice. On the first time that it was reviewed on June 13, 2017, when it was voted unanimously 5-0, and currently it's being on their agenda as we speak. Depending on the vote today would determine if they hear that case tomorrow. On October 23rd, 2017, a majority of previous council and some members of this current council voted to send version 2.2, in which I authored and was reviewed by, I believe, a few members of city administration and our law director, to go to Planning Commission to be heard. It has always been, in my opinion, that this city should have, in some way, shape, or form, to protect itself, zoning when it comes to cultivation, processing, and dispensary. I understand that I'm only one council member and I only have one vote. I like to think that I've done the best possible job I could to make sure that the roughly 40,000 residents of this city, business owners, potential business owners, could make sure that they were protected. And speaking with some of the land developers within my particular district in Ward 1, I've been made aware of 3 different opportunities that this city has missed out on not only dispensary, but additional cultivation, land purchase, and business opportunities. It is a conversation that I'm going to continue to have with other communities. And it's going to be a conversation that I'm going to take to other states because it's something that I strongly believe in. And I will respect the vote of this council and the will of this legislator to move this item forward. Again, my apologies, to the businesses and the individuals affected.